I've been a fan of anime for as long as I can remember. Like a lot of American kids, I got exposed to it through Toonami, and it was just so awesome compared to the standard American cartoons I was used to watching. Don't get me wrong, I grew up on some great cartoons, but it was a different feeling watching, I don't know, Dexter's Laboratory versus tuning into DBZ and watching Piccolo blow a hole through Raditz and Goku with the special beam cannon. I will admit that I had to hide my love for anime a little bit through the middle school years. I will admit that. It was a different time. I wanted to fit in and people made fun of the anime kids. You know how it goes. But that's why it's so awesome to see how much anime has exploded in popularity over the years. But even though it's achieved mainstream cultural success, people are wearing anime characters on their t-shirts, slapping whatever this is on their car, there's still some commonly used tropes that anime just refuses to get rid of. Tropes that are 1000% holding it back as an art form. In my first Raynami video in a very long time, what's up guys, I'm back. We're gonna be talking about some anime tropes that absolutely need to die, like they need to go yesterday. You see, in way too many anime nowadays, there seems to be some sort of like asterisk that you have to let people know of before they watch the show. You know, like characters that just look absolutely insane to American audiences. Characters that just don't translate very well from Japan over to here. Or tropes that we have to do mental gymnastics to avoid in order to keep enjoying the show that we really like. Listen, we have all been there. We've all recommended a show that we're like, listen, you gotta watch the show. It's really good. But there is a character who looks like a 12-year-old girl who dresses in like BDSM outfits, but no, it's okay, she's actually 1,000 years old, so it's cool. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably been in that position, or maybe you're just like shameless and you're like, yo, check this out, forget about it. But if you're like me and you have some trepidation about recommending anime to, I don't know, your wife, like your parents, whatever, you are not alone, and we're gonna discuss them all in this video, starting with the incest trope. Now, I've watched a lot of animated works in my time. I grew up, like I said, a big fan of anime, but also just a fan of animation in general. That is my jam. But out of all of the cartoons that I've watched over the years, especially as a kid, cartoons that feature brother and sister relationships, I'm talking like Dexter's Laboratory, Phineas and Ferb, Danny Phantom, Ben 10, never once did I think, the brother and the sister in this show, they seem to like really like each other, like each other. When Blackfire showed up on Teen Titans, I was feeling a lot of things, but I never once thought that there was any sexual tension between her and Starfire. Compare that to anime, and that's something that you see all the time. It is a very common occurrence. There are whole shows dedicated to like a incest plot, sure, but they're like separate standalone shows, but it's something that shows up even in the most popular mainstream anime as well. Example number 1, Spy Family. I love this show. It's one of my favorite new age anime. It has the perfect balance of high stakes. You want Lloyd Twilight to succeed in his mission to prevent another war because you just love his fake little family. They're so cute, Yor and Anya. But it also has these very lighthearted, funny moments. I love the humor in this. And ooh, I just want Lloyd and Yor to get together for real, and I'm just invested in their relationship, and I'm invested in a lot of aspects of this show. They're also great at escalating things to keep the plot interesting. So Twilight, he needs this fake family in order to execute this mission. He recruits a daughter, he recruits Yor, and deals with all the obstacles that brings. But oh, wait a minute. Yor's brother is a member of this super secret police faction that works for the state government, and his number one mission? To find Twilight, who, unbeknownst to him, is married to his sister. That is a great setup. That's amazing. Twilight, he's kind of got to play it cool and play it safe so he doesn't get found out by Yuri and turned into the secret police, and oh man, like, what if Yuri does find out? There's only one problem, though. It seems that Yuri really likes his sister Yor, and I'm talking like. He dreams of marrying her, and he can't stand the sight of another man, aka Lloyd, kissing her in front of him, presumably because he wants to do that himself. Now, it's not uncommon for brothers to be protective of their sisters. That's not what's strange here. In fact, Yuri's protectiveness is the perfect mechanism for this story. But in my personal opinion, they just take it a little bit too far. It gives me the ick, as people are saying nowadays. Makes me cringe a little bit. And I feel like a lot of people would agree with me. So there. A lot of people will argue with me and say like, oh, it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's part of the humor of it. And I just don't find it funny. It's just not funny. And I know the show can be funny because there's plenty of other moments that I find hilarious. This is not one of them. Exhibit number 2, Sword Art Online. If you die in the game, you die in real life. Perfect concept. Again, a great story hook. It has a lot of crossover appeal because chances are if you watch anime, you play a lot of video games or you play MMOs. Sword Art Online burst onto the scene when I was in college. Looking back on it, it was technically my first isekai. And while the animation was pretty clean and some of the fights were really cool, there were a lot of things in the show that at the time made me go, what? One of them being Suguha Kirigaya's relationship with her adoptive brother, Kirito, the main character. Now, Kirito is the standard self-insert protagonist. He plays video games all day. Specifically, he plays an MMO named Sword Art Online, which is amongst the nerdiest genres of video games that you can play. I'd say the only thing nerdier than that is like dedicating your life to MOBAs, like if he was addicted to a League of Legends type game. He spends all day playing video games, but somehow every girl that he meets wants to bang him. This includes Suguha, who at the beginning you're led to believe that this is his sister. They live together, they have like some familial relationship. You assume that she's his sister. Fast forward a little bit, Kirito escapes Sword Art Online and he starts playing a new game in the VR headset, Alfheim Online, where he meets this blonde elf chick. They start going on adventures together. Oh, but hold on, wait a minute, because of the rule that I was just telling you, this is a harem anime, so she's into him too, but oh, wait a minute, that blonde elf girl actually turns out to be Suguha, his sister, this family person that lives with him. When Suguha finally realizes that the person that she's been playing with, whose avatar looks exactly like Kirito, is in fact Kirito, she blows up. But guys, it's okay, because she's not actually Kirito's sister like we were led to believe, or like many people believe. No, actually, she's his cousin. Now, I'm not gonna lie, a guy who plays this video game that goes on these adventures with whoever, develops a deep bond with them, develops romantic feelings for them, only to find out that they're related somehow. That's actually a pretty interesting story hook, and the aftermath, especially like navigating the awkwardness and kind of dealing with the consequences of that sounds like a really interesting story. Sword Art Online is not that though, and they don't do any of that. They don't go too deep into it. Kirito's just like, sorry, and Sue, she just ends up being another girl who's obsessed with him. It's a trope that you see like so much, man. I just named 2 examples, Spy Family, freaking Sword Art Online, but there's a pair like that in Bungo Stray Dogs, there's a pair like that in Black Clover, popular mainstream anime. And speaking of questionable romantic relationships in anime, let's talk about this whole, I don't even know what to call it, this trope where like they sexualize teenage girls, and in order to kind of get around it, they age them up. Oh, actually, they're like 1,000-year-old dragonkin woman. And it's actually this trope, this topic, that made me want to make this video. And it all started when I watched an anime called Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation in Another World. Jobless Reincarnation in Another World functions a lot like your standard isekai adventure. The main character, he's a loser, he's a shut-in, he's an otaku, pervy kind of guy. He ends up getting kicked out of his parents' house, and then he dies. He gets hit by a car and gets transported to this other world. But unlike other isekai where the main character dies and is transported as they are when they died, in this show, the guy is transported to another world and is literally reborn. Like, he is reborn as a little baby, and he gets to grow up again in this fantasy world. He gets a second chance at life, but he also retains the memories that he had from his first life. And again, that is an interesting story hook. That's a fantasy that a lot of people have. What if I could be reborn again and grow up again knowing what I know now? I was into it. I was like, okay, let's go. I started watching the show because people online were saying, oh, it's like one of the best isekai out there. It stands above all the rest. And what's getting me so worked up about the things that raise my eyebrows, these tropes that appear that start to bother me, is because it's a good show and I don't think it needs to rely on those tropes. I know it's based off of a web novel, a light novel, and they're following it, but still. So when the main character is reborn, his name is Rudius, and he's born to this knight and healer. They used to be adventurers and now they're retired. They live in this little cottage. And Rudius displays a talent for magic. So his parents are like, hell yeah, this is awesome. We should get him a tutor. Let's call a mage over to be a live-in tutor and teach him magic. And so they do just that. They get this elf girl named Roxy with blue hair, standard-looking elf isekai chick. And because Rudius, even though he is reborn in this new body, he's a little kid again, he still has the mind of like a 30-something-year-old hentai pervert. And so you know he's just getting into shenanigans, man, because he sees this cute elf girl. He's like stealing her underwear. He makes a little shrine to her underwear that he keeps under his bed. And the whole reason why Rudius thinks that she's cute, and this is something that's brought up again further on into the show, is because she has the body of like a teenager. And if the implication of that wasn't obvious, it's explicitly stated later in the show. Like I just said, another character, he's more of like a villain type figure that's imprisoning Rudius. He has an obsession with this elf mage, Roxy. He has statues of her, he's obsessed with her, and he literally says like, oh, she's so cute because she has a prepubescent body. But no, okay guys, it's okay. It's all good because she's part of a race of elves where they age slower than everyone, so she's actually around 80 years old. No. No. This is something that only can happen in anime. You don't see that. You would never see that. Like if I went to go pitch that idea to like Netflix, HBO, any of the big streaming houses, they would be like, get this man on a list right now and get him out of my sight. And that's not the only questionable thing, because later on in the show, Rudius meets another girl. She's the daughter of a noble, and he's been assigned to teach her magic and teach her reading. And she's a classic tsundere type, like they butt heads, but then she eventually comes to respect him, like him. There's a little bit of a time skip on the adventures that they go on, and they have this scene where Rudius, they're like walking and going on their little adventure, and he looks at her after this time skip, and he's thinking in the voice of that he had previously in his previous life, and he's like, ooh yeah, she's growing in really nicely, like her figure is like growing really nicely. I'm like, no. Come on, man. Come on. Like, yes, I get it. You're in a new body. You're technically the same age, but you have the mind of a 35-year-old man. That is straight up grooming because you've known this girl since she was a child. And it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't just stop there because, of course, spoiler alert, if you haven't caught up on Jobless Reincarnation, skip this part, but they end up banging. They just end up banging later on. And like I just said, physiology-wise, sure, it's fine because I guess like biologically they're the same age, but one is a teenage girl mentally and the other is like a 35-year-old man. Again, people are gonna say like, oh, it's supposed to be funny. Oh, no, it's not funny. It's just not funny, man. And it takes away from an otherwise good story. This guy who wasted his first life because of circumstances, because he was bullied, because he was a certain way. He's giving a second chance at life, and him getting to explore that and realize it is really cool. But then these other things come in that have nothing to do with that journey, and you're like, come on, man. And you just see that in so many anime, man. Popular anime. 7 Deadly Sins. Bon, and yes, that anime was popular at one point before it just fell off a cliff in terms of animation quality. Bon and Elaine, man, and she has the body of like a 12-year-old girl. It's even worse than Roxy, but it's okay because she's a fairy that's like thousands of years old, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. But what's even worse than that is that she acts like a child. Later on in the show, she's literally acting like a child, and Bond's like, yeah, I'm totally into that. Those are tropes that absolutely absolutely need to die. But every now and then you get a subversion of a common anime trope that actually really works, so we'll talk about that for a little bit. I think one of the reasons why a lot of people like Jujutsu Kaisen is because, yes, the formula is familiar. You have a goofy, mysterious, white-haired sensei who's actually really powerful. You have an optimistic, kind-hearted protagonist in Yuji Itadori. You have his best friend who's like kind of moody, kind of doesn't like him at first, but really respects him and wants to be his friend. And then you have Nobara, who's like the Sakura. And yes, Itadori has a demon inside him, like Naruto, like Yusuke Urameshi, like frickin' Homeboy from Black Clover, like Ichigo Kurosaki, like so many others. And while the formula is familiar, you clearly see the comparisons. They do it in a way, they execute it in a way where it cuts all of the bullshit that we had to deal with in those other shows and just gets straight to the good stuff. That is a good subversion of a common anime trope. I'm also going to throw in Chainsaw Man, another MAPPA anime. Obviously, it's a fairly common trope for the main character in a shonen anime especially to have these lofty goals. Oh, they want to be the best. They want to be Hokage. They want to be the greatest hero. They want to reach for the stars and they want to be the best, the strongest, insert whatever you want. And in Chainsaw Man, Denji, like all main characters in anime, he does have a goal. He does have a dream. But unlike, oh, I want to be the best, I want to be the most famous, I want to be the strongest, his life sucks so much. He's so poor, he's experienced horrible, horrible things, that his main goal in life is to just feel the touch and love of a woman. He wants to touch a boob, and that's it. But I think that's a really clever subversion of the common main character trope that we see in a lot of anime. And in many ways, it's a lot more relatable as well. You feel bad for him because it's like, really? You don't have like any other dreams? You just want to feel loved? And also, he's a teenage boy with no prior romantic experience. It absolutely makes sense. A lot of people will relate to that. Maybe some people will relate to that now. I know this video may be falling on deaf ears, and ultimately these tropes exist because people like them. People keep watching them. People keep engaging in this sort of content. Maybe it plays out differently. Maybe it translates differently when it airs in Japan versus when it makes it over here. Maybe culturally there's like some things that I'm missing. But when it comes to at least the incest trope and the freaking like 12-year-old girl who's actually a 1,000-year-old trope, whatever we want to call it, those tropes need to go away. They need to die. If you have stuff that you're tired of seeing in your favorite anime, comment below. Let me know. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a conversation. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video I post. I promise it's not going to be a year-long break in between.